President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Give us back those Baligaben. They are ours. They belong to the Philippines. They are part of our national heritage.
On December 10, 1898, the Americans took over the Philippines. This is where the Philippine-American War began. Due to the desire of the Filipinos to be freed from the hands of the Americans, the Philippine-American War began on February 4, 1879 and ended on July 2, 1901. In 1901, Brigadier General Robert Leach ruled the Visayas, which covered summer. He implemented an aggressive policy. This is taking the food and property of people on the island. His goal was to end the resistance of people in the area and close the ports in Balangiga because at that time, Samar was the center of production of Manila hemp, or also known as abaca. Selling of abaca is the utmost way of livelihood of Filipino forces. It is used in manufacture of ropes and specialty papers. That is why American forces want to get rid of abaca trade to cut the financial resources of Filipino forces who fought against the Americans. On August 11, 1901, Company C, 9th U.S. Infantry Regiment arrived in Balangiga on the southern coast of Samar Island to close its nearby port in Basay and Giwan to prevent supplies reaching Filipino guerrillas in the interior, which is led by General Vicente Uban, who proclaimed himself governor of Samar under Aguinaldo's Philippine Republic. But other accounts stating that the reason of Americans for being there is that Mayor of Balangiga, Presidente Pedro Abayan, requested American troops to protect his town from dangerous Moro pirates. This is supported by a letter from First Lieutenant Edward Bampos of Company C, who wrote that the Company C was in Balangiga to prevent the use of ports to smuggle supplies to the Filipino guerrillas. In this story, there was no attack planned when the soldiers arrived at Balangiga. General Hughes later testified before the Senate Committee on the Philippines that he handpicked Captain Thomas Connell to go to Samar. Connell was a devout Catholic and a young recent graduate of West Point, and he sincerely believed in benevolent assimilation in the Philippines. Like many Americans, he believed Filipinos needed help in order to become civilized. This idea, also known as the white man's freedom, was a frequent justification of colonialism. Unlike many soldiers, Connell was friendly to Filipinos, hoping to gain their trust so that they might accept and even embrace American colonialism. The first month of Company C's presence in Balangiga was marked by extensive fraternization between the Americans and local residents. The friendly activities included tuba, native wine, drinking among soldiers and native meals, baseball game, and artists, stick fighting, demonstration in the town plaza, even a romantic lake with American surgeon from Lecton and native woman church leader Casania Nacionalis.
Tensions rose when on September 22, the company commander Captain Thomas W. Connell rounded up 143 male residents for forced labor to clean up the town, in preparation for an official visit by his superior officers. They were detained overnight without food under two colonial civilians in the town plaza, each of which could only accommodate 16 people. 78 of the detainees remained the next morning. After 65 others were released due to age and physical infirmity. Finally, Connell ordered the confiscation from the houses of all sharp bolos, and the confiscation and destruction of stored rice. However, other accounts stating that Captain Connell was just concerned about the cleanliness of the town. he may have been motivated by a desire for a more civilized way of life. Connell asked President Abayan to persuade the people to clean up their homes. This was unsuccessful. Connell then set about moralizing Balangega. He was most preoccupied with the man's love for cockfighting and the young woman's attire or lack thereof. Connell approached the local priest for help, but was rebuked. The priest took a more practical than pious approach, and would not likely disappear anytime soon. As for the women, they could never afford petticoats. The ways American soldiers interacted with local women have been contested. Some accounts claim that the young girls were used to decoys for insurgents. They would lure a soldier into the jungle and then he would be killed. One historian wrote, "The men learned from this blunder and next decoy was dragged under a hat and repeatedly raped." In other accounts, the soldiers simply took advantage of women in a relatively regular basis. Apparently, Connell had no knowledge of this until 3 young girls approached him, claiming his men raped them. He was infuriated and posted to the following orders: "I will construe any act of physical touching the body or limb of a native woman by a member of this command as rape and will recommend that the soldier be court-martialed and shot. Think of how disgrace would sadden your mothers and loved ones at home." He also banned cockfights and consumption of Filipino alcohol. Connell wanted good relations between Americans and Filipinos, but he was in the minority among his fellow soldiers. It irritated them endlessly, and other accounts stating that he was under strict orders from a very angry Inspector General. Feeling aggrieved, the town people plotted to attack the U.S. Army garrison. Lukban played no role in the planning of the attack. He only learned about it a week later. About 500 men in 7 attack units would take part. They represented virtually all families of Balangega, whose outlying villages then included the present towns of Lawaan and Gerlorpos, and in Kinapundan, a town served by the priest in Balangega. On September 27, Friday, the natives sought divine help and intervention for the success of their plot through an afternoon procession and marathon evening novena prayers to their protector saints inside the church. They also ensured the safety of the women and children by having them leave the town after midnight. Hours before the attack, Private Adolph Gablin observed women and children evacuating the town and reported it, but it was ignored. To mask the disappearance of the women from the dawn service inside the church, 34 attackers from Barrio Lawaan crossed just as women worshippers. On Saturday, September 28, around 6:45 a.m., Abanador grabbed Private Adolph Gamblin's rifle from behind and hit him unconscious with its bat. Abanador turned the rifle at the man in the sergeant's mess tent, wounding one. He then waved a rattan came above his head and yelled, "Atake mga Balangigan on! Attack men of Balangiga!" A bell in the church tower was rung seconds later to announce that the attack had begun.
The guards outside the convent and municipal hall were killed. The Filipinos apparently sealed in the Sibley tents at the front of the municipal hall, having had weapons smuggled to them in the water corridor, broke free and entered the municipal hall and made their way to the second floor. The men in the church broke into the convent through a connecting corridor and killed the officers who were billeted there. The mess tent and the 2 barracks were attacked. Most of the Americans were hacked to death before they could grab their firearms. The few who escaped the main attack fought with utensils, kitchen utensils, steak knives, and chairs. The convent was successfully occupied, and so initially was the municipal hall. But the mess tent and barracks attack suffered a fatal blow. About 100 men were split into 3 groups, one of each target, but too few attackers had been assigned to ensure success. A number of Co-C personnel escaped from the mess tent and the barracks and were able to retake the municipal hall, arm themselves, and fight back. Adolf Gumblin recovered consciousness, found a rifle, and caused considerable casualties among the Filipinos. Faced with immensely superior firepower and rapidly degraded attacking, Abanador ordered a retreat, but with a sufficient numbers and fear that the rebels would regroup and attack again. The surviving Americans, led by Sergeant Frank Bitron, escaped by the Baroto, native canoes without triggers, navigated by using wooden paddles, to Basay, Samar, about 20 miles away. The townspeople returned to bury their dead, then abandoned the town. The town was deserted. The dead of Company C lay where they fell, among bearing horrible hack wounds. Bookmiller and his men burned the town to the ground. Of the original 74-man contingent, 48 died and 26 survived, 22 of them severely wounded. The dead included all of Company C's commissioned officers, Captain Thomas W. Connell and First Lieutenant Edward B. Bumpus and Major Richard S. Griswold, the company surgeon. The guerrillas also took 1,000 rifles with 25,000 rounds of ammunition. 28 Filipinos died and 22 were wounded.
The massacre shocked the U.S. public. Many newspaper editors noted that it was the worst disaster suffered by the U.S. Army since Custer's last standing at a Little Big Horn. And because of President Theodore Roosevelt, the late President of America, ordered Chaffee to adopt in no unmistakable terms the sternest measure to pacify Samar. Anna Romanza Chaffee, a veteran of the Civil War and countless Indian campaigns, appointed Brigadier Generals James Franklin Bell to Batangas and Jacob Smith to Samar, with orders to do whatever was necessary to destroy the opposition. He wanted an Indian-style campaign. Chaffee's orders were largely responsible for the atrocities that marked the large stages of the war. General Jacob Smith told Major Littleton Waller, "I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better it will please me." The interior of Samar Samar must be made howling wilderness. Those who can bear arms 10 years old and above must be shot. Soldiers also burned and looted the villages in Malamida. He stressed that every native will henceforth he treated as an enemy until he has conclusively shown that he is a friend. His policy be to wage war in sharpest and most decisive manner, and that a course would be pursued that would create a burning desire for peace. Within a day, the Americans burned down 200 Filipino homes and shot 13 caravans. After the massacre, the bells were taken by the Americans as a war trophy to commemorate their fallen and to celebrate their victory over Balamida. The killings did not end there, as the U.S. continued to enforce the scorched earth policy until 1902, which meant the total destruction of the town and its people.
And that's the story of Balamida Massacre.